In this video, we're going to talk about one of the most foundational steps to creating true wealth. You have to know and understand how cash flows in and out of your life. You have to have a budget. I know I've said the B word. I'm sorry. I know you're not supposed to swear here on YouTube, but I'm telling you right now that if you don't have a budget that you stick to or a way of staying accountable with your money, understanding the income, understanding the expenses, and keeping track of those things, you're never going to make it. You have to be able to live beneath your means and then learn to slowly grow your means. Slow and steady wins the race. Those who are disciplined will always have the freedom necessary to be able to be whatever they want to be or do whatever they want to do. But if you have no discipline, you're not going to make it. And budgeting is my way of disciplining my money to do what I want it to do, not what the world or what other people want me to do with my money. So let's get started on how to properly budget your money. My name is Paris Clough, and this is Financial Self-Reliance. On this channel, we help people learn how to manage, protect, and grow their money. And on this video, we're going to talk a lot about how to manage your money, specifically budgeting. So let's talk a little bit about what are the things that I think, some of the things that I think are key to budgeting your money. Now, cash flow is a synonym for budgeting. That's a synonym I like to use so that you understand that budgeting basically is you disciplining and controlling the flow of cash and money in your life. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So most people, when they get money, they earn it, and then they spend it, and then they borrow, and then they spend more. So this is typically how cash flows in the average American family. This is not what we're talking about with having appropriate and positive cash flow. What you want to do is the following. So this is how money or cash should flow. If you want to be wealthy, you should earn that money, then save some money, which is basically paying yourself first, then spend on your bills, which we're going to talk a little bit about fixed expenses and variable expenses. And then you can invest some money in the future, invest money in a business or in real estate or in the stock market. So one of the key things to determine a budget is to determine what are your wants and your needs. Now, a need is something that's you can't live without. It's food, electricity, gas, water, toiletries, shelters, everything that you need to be able to survive in the world and be comfortable and have a modest lifestyle. The things that you want are things that are above and beyond that. You know, we need to have a nice car, but you want to have a Lamborghini or you want to have a Porsche or you want to have a BMW. You don't need to buy those kinds of cars in order to have proper transportation. You need clothing, but you don't have to have Louis Vuitton. You don't have to have, Ralph Lauren. You don't have to have all those bigger name brands. So that's the idea. That's kind of the idea between a need and a want. You want to have those needs taken care of, but you got to balance that with what your budget is saying you should do. Most people get into trouble because they don't understand the difference between a need and a want, and their want it tends to guide and direct them and how they're spending their money. And so that's something that's critical when you get, that's why we did mindset last week. And the mindset video I'll put up here I'll put it actually over, it'll be over there. The mindset video talks about really gathering in your goals. What are your dreams? What are you focusing in on? What are your beliefs and habits around money? Because this is really going to help you in this budgeting section to understand what are you budgeting for? What are your wants? What are your needs? And what do you really want to accomplish? And so keeping that under control and keeping that discipline is critical. So this is kind of a funny quote that I've heard over the years. There, little luxury, don't you cry. You'll be a necessity by and by. How many times have we seen somebody that has the coolest, the next coolest phone or the coolest video game or the coolest TV or the biggest rims, or we'll see they driving that car that you've always wanted. And you're like, look, if they're buying it, I'm going to go buy it. I don't even care. Monthly payments are low enough that I can take care of it with future money. I can buy today and spend my money, my future money, on something that I'm buying today. Don't do that to yourself. Don't spend future money on things you're buying today. Do yourself a favor and save up for things and buy things with cash you already have in savings. Now, I get it. There's houses and education and things like that you're going to have to take out loans for. But man, once you're done with those, do that modestly. Do that part modestly as well. But then make sure that you keep on track and on pace to stay out of debt as much as you can. The last thing you want to do is be upside down, have more money going out than coming in, have more debt piling up than assets that you're building. You just don't do that to yourself. Be smart, be wise, be disciplined. And this is the first step. After you get your mindset right, the next step is getting your budget and getting your discipline with the money, with the action, with the actually doing it. This is the budget. This is where the rubber meets the road. So the definition of a budget here says a financial plan that allocates future personal income towards expenses, savings, and debt repayment. And if you do it right, you're not going to have a ton of debt repayment. So you want to definitely track your income. It says the first thing here is tracking your income. Then you want to know what your expenses are, and then you have the savings, and that's kind of the three areas of a budget. Now, of course, I added earlier in that cash flow chart that I had, that flow chart, I had investments in there, and that's something that's critical. You want to have investments as well. So, how do you build a positive cash flow? You got to know what's coming in and you got to know what's coming out. And so, the best way to do that is to track those things and to keep track of those things. Stay accountable to yourself. If you don't have somebody, or if you don't have the fortitude to stay accountable to yourself, get somebody that you can partner with, get a best friend, get a spouse, get somebody that you trust that you can partner with and stay accountable to keep you doing that, because it requires discipline. And discipline, I love the quote, or freedom is on the other side of discipline. And that's so true. Financial freedom, you want financial freedom, get disciplined on the front end and you're going to have it. It's like almost guaranteed. There's no way to 100% guarantee it, but you're not going to have a chance at all if you have no discipline to have any kind of freedom. So one of the key things that I tell people in developing the budget for the first time is that the best way to know what you're doing going forward is to see what your habits have been in the past. So the first step, in my opinion, to set a budget properly going forward is to look back at your habits, look back at what you've already spent money on and what categories you've spent that money on. So for example, I say take a 90-day look back. 90 days because you're going to get an average. There's going to be some things that you only pay once a year, so you're going to add those in later. But definitely, if you have a 90-day average, you're going to have 3 months there of different expenditures that you've used. You're going to have the fixed, variable, and other expenses that you're going to see. We're going to talk about in the next slide. But if you look back over the last 90 days, get out all your bank statements, get out all your credit card statements, get out all your pay stubs even, and look back over the last 90 days and put it out in front of you. And let's say, what do we spend money on? And this is how you categorize it when you're done. So here, like I said, bank statements, credit card statements, any statements that you have that shows what you spent money on. All right, now here's what you're going to put into categories. You're going to put categories into fixed, periodic, and variable. The fixed category is where it happens every month. It's the same. It's like your rent payment, your car payment, your insurance payment, your phone payment, internet, things that don't change from month to month. The variable expenses change from month to month. That's like your food, your gas. Those are the different expenses that you're going to pay for. We're going to get into it in a minute, but periodic is those things that happen once a quarter. Maybe they happen once a year, like car registration. So here's some examples of fixed expenses. Like I shared earlier, rent, car payments, insurance premiums, gym memberships. These fixed expenses are easy to track and include in your budget because they're the same every single month. The next one is the periodic, is what the car registration, quarterly subscriptions, anything that you have. What you want to do is, let's say you have an annual payment every year for car registration. And if you live in California, you practically need to take a loan out to pay your car registration. But most other states in America have a pretty decent cost, so you can probably take care of it in your monthly budget. But just in case, let's say you have a $200 annual car registration fee, I would take $10 or $15 a month, maybe $20 a month, and just put it into a fund so that at that 12-month mark, you've got $200 to $240 in there, and just bam, you take care of it. So putting that into your monthly budget is a wise thing to do. Is it required? No, but it's a wise thing to do, and it helps to keep you disciplined. So if you have annual or quarterly or semi-annual payments, divide those up into the amount of money. So if it's every 6 months, divide it by 6. If it's every 12 months, divide it by 12. And then just put a little bit of money into a savings account to pay for that, and a sinking fund to pay for that when the time comes up. So the last thing here is variable expenses. These is groceries, eating out, entertainment, personal care, anything that you want to do. Open up a separate checking account with a set amount to spend on variable expenses if you need to. Whatever it can help you be disciplined and stay disciplined. Also, tracking on a spreadsheet or a mobile app is critical when it comes to variable expenses. That way, you know that every month when money comes in, you have every dollar allocated to where it's supposed to go. The one thing that I really like about this method is that once you look back over those 90-day period, you can put each thing into a category. So you put, let's say, for example, that right now it's June as I'm recording this, but let's say over the last 90 days would be May, April, and March. So in May, what did you spend on groceries, eating out, entertainment, personal care? What did you spend on your rent? What did you spend on car payments? Write it all down. And then April, go back one more month. What did you spend on all those things? Put it in the categories. And then in March, go back the third month, that 90 days. And then what did you spend on each of those categories? And then when you have that, you average it out. So let's say you spent $50 one month on eating out. The next month you spent 100, and the next month you spent 75. Well, that's 50 plus 75 is 125 plus 100, another 100 is 225. Well, over 3 months, that's about a 75 $80 average that you're spending on eating out. So you can have that as your budget. So $80 is your budget. So you know that if you spend $100 one month, you're over budget. If you spend 50, you're under. Well, sometimes you can just transfer that to the next, as long as you're keeping it right around your average. And that's what I try to do with my budget. I definitely keep track each month, month by month, but I also then keep track of my average so that I know that I'm keeping within that average. This is especially good for people like myself who are self-employed, who have their own business, whose maybe their income isn't always the same every single month. So you got to live kind of on averages when it comes to income. You got to live on averages when it comes to your expenses. I hope this video helps you to set a budget and understand why it's so important to be disciplined and be accountable with your money and the cash flow that you have in your life. Know what's coming in, know what's going out, and hopefully there's a positive difference where you can actually start to save money and put money into investments for your future and be financially free at some point in the future. So if you missed the last video I produced, go ahead and check it out here. Subscribe to the channel up here and check out this video up here that YouTube thinks you might like. Until the next video, have a great day.